Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums today in the co-captain's chair, all the way from the UK, Mr. Simon Bray. I was going to say good morning, my friend, but it is technically just afternoon your time, correct?
Just ticked over into the afternoon, yeah.
That's right. That's right. So today, the much talked about, long promised Atlanta Rhythm section. We've decided, since they have a very large discography, and as Simon and I have been talking about over the last several months, Atlanta Rhythm section has tons of great songs, maybe not a lot of great albums, top to bottom, although I found while I was kind of re-listening to a lot of this that there are quite a few that I really like a lot. Maybe no, or maybe just a couple of real classic albums, but great songs. So we decided to make this a little bit easier on ourselves is we're doing our top 5 ARS albums, and then we'll throw a couple of honorable mentions in the end because they do have a pretty large catalog. So that's the plan here. So we're going to have Simon kick us off. I don't know, Simon, if you want to give a little bit of kind of history of this band from Doraville, Georgia, right? Who've been around since the early 70s. Ironically, not a Capricorn band, right?
I mean, indeed. A bunch of session musicians initially went on, and with a Svengali producer type guy and Buddy Buey. I mean, obviously they're classed as Southern rock, but they're not Skinner, they're not Allman, they're not even Marshall Tucker. They're much smoother than that. Much smoother. If I would be honest, if somebody said to me, "Hey, they're a Southern rock act," I wouldn't have known it from listening to much of their output.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was actually thinking about this last night because I was re-listening to a couple albums before I went to bed. When they are Southern rocky, they do kind of sound a little like Skinner. They don't do right, but that's you get like 1 or 2 or 3 songs per album like that. When they just sound like themselves, you could easily mistake them for Supertramp or Steely Dan or Player or any of those type of bands, right? A lot of keyboards, electric piano, amazing vocal harmonies. And really, really singable, memorable songs. But yeah, they're without a doubt the Southern rock band that almost doesn't fit in the Southern rock genre, right? I mean,
but it's a broad church.
That's okay.
Yeah, Southern rock is a broad church, isn't it?
Yeah. So they've been around a long time. They've had a lot of lineup changes, and we talk about this every time we do one of these ranking shows on Southern rock bands. They've had a lot of tragedy in their camp. We've had there's quite a few former members of Atlanta Rhythm section that are no longer with us, sadly. I mean, that seems like, I don't know what it is, but that seems like a Southern rock thing. But they are they've been still going around in recent years under certain configuration. Ironically enough, their very first singer, whose name is Rodney Justo, who appeared on the very, very first Atlanta Rhythm section self-titled album, left after that album. And again, this is 72 we're talking about. He is now back fronting the band 50 years later, almost 50 years later. So it's been kind of like a weird circle here. So, but yeah, they've still been pretty active, despite, a completely different lineup and what have you. But I would say the classic lineup of the band that most people, and probably it's going to be on most of the albums we're going to talk about here today, Barry Bailey and J.R. Cobb on guitars, really fine players. Paul Goddard on bass, who I will note is if you read up on Paul Goddard, he was a huge progressive rock fan. In fact, he played a Rickenbacker bass. He was a huge fan of Chris Squire and all those kind of guys. So really, really interesting character there. Dean Daughtry on keyboards, really fine player who was integral to the sound. Ronnie Hammond, one of the best singers, I think, in this Southern rock genre we talk about. And then Robert Nix was the drummer through most of the classic years, but like I said, they've had various lineup changes since, and we've lost some of these guys. So I'll have Simon kick us off with his number 5.
Okay, my number 5 is Dog Days from 1970. I'm going to go with 5. I think that, yeah. you referenced, that's the one. You referenced Steely Dan earlier, and I think that's very Steely Dan-ish in places. Is this record?
Yeah.
Yep. Very, very laid back. It's just almost horizontal. It's so laid back. It's this record, and it's also poppy as well. They did pop tunes quite well. And it's all the records I find are really quite good sounding, well, excellent sounding records. It's very, very lush sound. And I think you mentioned the bass. I think the bass is really important on this record. It's arguably the most, I won't say Allman kind of bass throughout this record. Allman Brothers Band bass. It's really quite. That's Allman. Yeah, that's the best I can come up with.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Yeah, there's some kind of jazzy bits on that album that I think it's funny because without giving too much away, one of the notes that I wrote about in this is that there's this kind of jazzy swamp rock thing that's permeating this album and a lot of their albums actually, and that does remind me of the Allman Brothers. So you're pretty spot on there, and that's exactly how I was thinking as well. And yeah, it's a good album. I mean, it's a good listen. Most of these albums are a really, really good listen.
Yeah.
They're expertly produced. Bobby Buey was their manager and also producer, and he sang a lot of backup vocals on most of their albums. And you have to wonder if like his influence kind of, because a lot of these albums they don't sound the same, but there's a similar feel throughout a lot of the albums, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's a good choice.
Thank you.
Yeah. I like a lot of these albums. I mean, they're good. It's funny I haven't listened, in getting ready to do this, I have a good chunk of their catalog, if not most of it, but I hadn't listened to them in a long time. I think, I pull out the live album a lot, which I will, if we can just kind of deviate for a second. This is a pretty spectacular live album. And as you can see, this band was fairly big in the 70s, and they were playing the big crowds, but this is almost like a greatest hits live album. All right. This is Are You Ready? It's called. So, for the folks who are watching who, maybe get intimidated by large catalogs, and even though we're giving you our best 5, if you're still not sure where to dive in with this band, check out the live album, because it's got most of their strong songs from the 70s played really great live. I mean, it's not a jammy album, so don't expect like extended arrangements and things like that, but it's the songs played as you like them really, really well, and there's a lot of them, so that's a good choice. But my number 5, I'm going to go with the Third Annual Pipe Dream from 1974. That's this baby right there. So it's one of their early ones. This is a strong album. It's got Doraville, which is I believe the first song on the album. That's all about where they came from, Doraville, Georgia. Great single, killer hook. You got Close the Door, another strong song, which has really kind of tasty slide guitars. And that's kind of that swamp rock type of song. And, they, unlike, Skinner and, Blackfoot and Molly Hatchet and all that kind of stuff, they didn't often pull out the roaring slide guitars and do the typical thing. They did it on occasion. Usually every album you got a couple songs like that, but for the most part, like Simon mentioned, it's almost like this kind of soothing soft rock, very melodic type of thing with a lot of pop. Blues in Maud's Flat is an instrumental. They also would throw some instrumentals out there every now and then, and they're very good players. These guys were really good players. Join the Race is a blistering rocker. Again, that's probably one of their more Skinner tracks on the album. You got a great, should have been a hit single in Angel. What in the world's come over us? It's just got such a great hook. Love it. I don't know how that wasn't like a smash. Maybe they just never thought that would be, single material, but man, it's such a great song. Help Yourself rocks really hard. I think Third Annual Pipe Dream is out of their early albums, I think is their underrated jam in the early part of their career. Really good Southern rock album. It's kind of laid back. It's kind of fiery. It's got a little bit of everything that they do. So that is my number 5. Back to you.
I have to say that Third Annual Pipe Dream was one of my honourable mentions, so got that out of the way there. Yeah, good album.
Yeah.
Could quite easily be in the top 5.
Yeah.
But however, my number 4 is Red Tape from 1976. Here it comes. There you go. Oh, it's on the same as Dog Days. There you
It's
go.
on Dog Days. I mean, these are really good. BGO Records has put out some good product over the years. And not only do they help out with saving space on the shelf, because you get like the 2 albums on one CD, but they do a great job with the booklets, with all sorts of cool info in them. It's like whenever I see any of the BGO stuff, and they're usually all remastered. So, and they've done that with the entire catalog for the most part here. So,
yeah, this is one of their more guitar-heavy albums. Particularly Another Man's Woman, which is very Skinner-y. I think if I'm saying Skinner, that means that it's one of my favorite things, well, in the world, to be honest. But that's particularly Skinner-y. Shanghai is pretty heavy, not necessarily Slayer style heavy, but nonetheless, pretty heavy stuff for them. Just a much more guitar album than most of their catalog. And Free Spirit sounds very much like the Eagles to me. Yep. Very, very much like the Eagles. And I think I've written that down a few times in my notes. And I'm a sucker for the Eagles. So, yeah.
There's something about breezy, multi-layered vocal harmonies, right? I mean, it's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
You bring up a good point about the album being guitar heavy in one of their more harder rocking albums, and it's almost like with the cover that they kind of announced that was going to be the case, right? So you got the reel-to-reel tape machine, and then the guy playing the Gibson Les Paul saying, "Okay, this is a guitar album," and it is, and it's. I tell you, both those guys, fine players. It's almost like they didn't unleash themselves, enough. I think you get lots of tasty melodic playing on all these albums, but it's like you're almost like, especially earlier in the catalog, it's like, all right, guys, come on, give us what you got. Let's go. Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
All right, my next one for number 4 is 1981's Quinella, or Quinella, however they say it. Not quite sure. So, talking about heavier ARS albums, the first half of this album, remember the first time I heard this, I was like, oh, there's the real hard rocking album we always expected from ARS. The first half of the album really delivers. You're thinking, wow, this is probably their first true, like nasty Southern rock album through and through, right? You get Homesick, starts it off, this big snarling rocker, man. Again, Skinner, it's what I hear. The title track is this funky swamp rocker with honky-tonk piano, slide guitars all over the place. You got Alien, which was their pop single on here, and that's got this kind of haunting melody, really good vocal harmonies, a lot of tasty guitar solos.
Dubious, that one, I think.
Yeah, really good song. High energy rock. Okay, kind of reminds me of 38 Special a little bit. You're So Strong is another good rocker, but then all of a sudden, like the second half of the album, just kind of like, you got Outlaw Music. It's real. I find pretty sappy pop song, Pretty Girl, Southern Exposure. All three of them, the album just kind of takes a nosedive from there. But then they finish it up with Going to Shangri-La, which is kind of like this majestic, kind of poppy, mysterious, jazzy rocker. Kind of reminds me of the Allmans a little bit. Good electric piano, lots of vocals. It's almost like this album is kind of like Southern rock meets Supertramp. But again, I rank it high at number 4 because I think the first half of the album is so good that even though I'm not crazy about the second half, I think the quality of those first few songs really elevates it for me. So it's a good one. Perhaps their last, really, really strong album, although they have a couple later ones that have come out like in the 90s and what have you, which I think have a lot of really good moments. But this, from their classic era, this is probably the last really, really good album.
My number 3 is, I think, the one before that, Underdog from 1979. I think, well, obviously Southern rock had a big problem in the late 70s, given the whole, dead Skinner situation and the changing musical landscape. And in some ways, Underdog, it's almost as if New Wave never happened. But they're equally, I think they're trying to change the sound a little bit, because you know, Southern rock really was like being guillotined out of the situation towards that point. And I'm a sucker for when bands do that kind of thing, because all, you know, Molly Hatchet, they all at some point thought, wow, we're gonna have to try and get a little bit more commercial, a little bit more produced. And I think with Underdog, the I want to say ARS did very much did that. It's a very laid back record. Again, opens with Do or Die, which kind of really sets the laid back tone. There's a cover of Spooky on there, which is good because, you know what, they kind of like wrote it, didn't they? And we're in the band, and they just whilst I'm saying the album's kind of different, they just plowed that furrow of being the Atlanta Rhythm Section, sounding like themselves all the time. And there is, I think, the main problem I have with the band is, and you touched it, they get a little bit poppy, and there's nothing wrong with pop at all, but just sappy. I think, you know, some sappiness in much of their stuff. Quite safe at times, but sometimes you just need that laid back kind of stuff, and Underdog does it for me.
Yeah, it's like saccharin, right? It's like sugary sweet. You know, Underdog is an interesting album. You bring up an interesting point there about how a lot of the other Southern rock bands also made that move into much mellower, more commercial music. But what's interesting is that Atlanta Rhythm Section did it a lot earlier than the rest of them. Molly Hatchet waited till like the mid 80s. 38 Special waited till probably 83 or something like that. You know, various other bands kind of went down. I mean, look at, you know, Doc Holliday and all those other bands. They went down that route when they figured, all right, the Southern rock that we know and love that we play, we got to change things up a little bit. And if we could kind of do a parallel with like maybe like the progressive rock bands of the 70s, they also by 78, 79, and 80 had to change their sound. So it's interesting that Atlanta Rhythm Section in 79, knowing the 80s are coming, were already ahead of that game, right? So they were already, even though they had a lot of material like what you hear on Underdog throughout all those earlier albums, Underdog, for the most part, the entire album is like that. It's a lot of keyboards, less guitars. It's mostly like a soft rock album, or what we would call today here in the States. I don't know if that in the UK they're calling, you know, this yacht rock thing.
Yes, that does exist.
Yeah. So I mean, if I were to, I could don't even mention Southern rock. I would say, you know what, Underdog. If you like this thing called yacht rock, get Underdog, because I mean, there's good songs on it. It's a good pop album. It's totally a yacht rock album. You could, you know, Ambrosia, Player, Pablo Cruz, Atlanta Rhythm Section. It's not that much different. And good songs, good playing. It's just very laid back, the soaring harmonies and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a strong album, I think. And Spooky is terrific, I think.
Yeah.
All right, my number 3 is what am I looking for here? My number 3 is Red Tape. For all the reasons that Simon mentioned. This is a big, lively album. Shanghai, terrific song. Hard rocker, Ronnie Hammond, what a singer. You got some great guitar licks from Bailey and Cobb on there. Another Man's Woman, tasty pianos, lots of guitars. Just the vocal harmonies are just astounding in this band. Police is kind of like Southern Boogie, which I dig. Jukin', good funky Southern rock. Mixed Emotions, good hard rocker. Oh, What a Feeling has got some really, really nasty guitar licks, and it's catchy. And then Free Spirit, what a pop song that is. One of their best albums, in my opinion. It's, like I said, it's my top 3, so I like it a lot. I love the cover. I just think it's spectacular. And yeah, band firing on all cylinders here.
Okay, my number 2 is the Atlanta Rhythm Section album, with Rodney Justo on vocals for that one kind of early appearance. There it is. I know we've discussed this before, but one of the great things I like about the record, it's 38 minutes long. Give it a listen, then you've still got 23 and a half hours of your day to go. Fantastic. Actually, you know, there's a lot, and I've said this many times before, there's a lot to be said for being concise, and it's an excellent concise record. It's got, like you said, the lobbying the odd instrumental, and this one's Ernestine. There's the distinctly punny Another Man's Woman brackets. It's so hard. Yeah, I see what you did there. Excellent. Days of Our Lives is quite angsty for 90s, and just just don't know exactly what that means, but it really hangs until it gets to the chorus. And this is actually where I wrote down about Bailey and Cobb. The guitars are just excellent.
Yeah,
really top notch stuff straight out the gate.
Yeah. Well, in 1972, there really is no term Southern rock, right? So you had these bands from the South who were like, all right, we want to rock, we want to play some blues, we want to play some jazz, I mean, that's what it was all about, right? So you're just throwing out there whatever. And I think that the debut album probably follows less of a formula than any of their other albums, right? Because there's all sorts of variety on that first album. And it's got the different singer, the original singer, but he sounds fine on it, I think. So yeah, I mean, you bring up another great point, and we've talked about it so much over the years. There is something to be said about an album that's 45 or 40 minutes and less, right? And I don't know about you, Simon, but I remember, back in the early 90s when CDs, really kind of took off and completely took over from cassettes and LPs. And for me, the prospect of getting a CD that had like 65, 70 minutes worth of music, I was like, wow, we're getting so much for our money, right? It's great, these big long albums. And now you fast forward to today, and I'm like, man, over an hour is a little too much, just a little too much. And I can appreciate like bands of today when they put out a new album, new CD, whatever, and it's 40 minutes or less. And I'm like, it's just, what is it? Is it? I mean, I don't have an issue with a really strong 60-minute album that's got all great songs, but how many times are bands putting out these long records just because they can?
Yeah.
And they originally had 8-9 songs that were really, really strong, and they're like, we can throw a couple extra in there, and those couple extra kind of bloat the album a little bit.
Yeah, because I often say to the young people that I teach, and have you ever listened to an album from front to back? Because that's still how I like to do it. I like to put it on at the start, listen to it all the way through.
Yeah.
And sometimes, with a 70-minute album, you think, Jesus, is this ever going to end? I've got stuff to go and do. You know what I mean? A nice, concise 38-minute, bob on, absolutely.
Yeah, and I still like to listen to, and I'm mainly a CD guy, and I still like to listen to CDs from start to finish. I'm not a shuffle type of guy. I don't want to hear this one song from this band. I like listening to albums as they were originally recorded through and through. And yeah, there's like a perfect example. It's like, for me, I go to the gym and I bring the iPod, and I know I've told this story before. Every day when I'm driving the 3 miles to the gym, between when I leave the house and I arrive in the parking lot of Gold's Gym, I have already decided what I'm going to listen to during my workout. I do this every day. It's like a religious thing that I do. I know I'm anal. It's ridiculous, and I get frustrated. So, and I generally, because I go on my lunch hour, I have an hour, right? So, and sometimes I take a little bit longer to stop at the post office and the supermarket. But, I want to make sure that I listen to whatever it is I've chosen from start to finish.
Yeah.
And there are some days where I happen to pick something that's like 70 minutes long, and I'm like, I get done with my workout, I know I got to go, and I'm like, I'm at track 8, and I'm like, ugh. And then the thing is, do I want to pick up with that album the next day at the next workout? No, because I've already moved on from that one. It's time to go to another one, right? And a lot of times I'll pick something that I know is like 45 minutes, which gives me enough time to then decompress and get ready to leave and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I digress. But yeah, I like a concise album too, and I find that the sweet spot is like somewhere between 35 and 50 minutes, I think. But yeah, I find that my patience wanes a little bit for these 65, 70, 75-minute long albums a little bit. I mean, I can appreciate them, and when you do get something really, really good that's really long, I don't mind it. But all right, where are we at? It's number 2, right?
That was my number 2, yeah.
That was your number 2. All right, my number 2 is almost with my number 1, but a rock and roll alternative All right, with the cool picture of the guys on the stage. I'm a sucker for live shots on albums. 1976, a really, really, really great album. Sky High is the kickoff track. So good, so good. Just gritty guitars, piano, Ronnie Hammond singing up a storm. You know, just a great, great track. You got Hitchhiker's Hero, which kind of brings again that swamp rock thing again. It's got that feel. Southern rocker, Don't Miss the Message. Don't Miss the Message is so good. Again, I think there's a lot of what I always really wanted to hear from this band on this album. This was why I like it so much. You got Georgia Rhythm, which is more of kind of like a country rock type of thing. Reminds me a little bit of the Eagles. You mentioned the Eagles before, especially some of their earlier stuff. And then there's like in my opinion, one of the best pop songs of the 70s. So Into You was their huge hit, their massive hit. It's very soulful, it's melodic, it's one of the all-time great pop songs, I think, from this era. They do a cover of Outside Woman Blues. It rocks really hard. You got Everybody Gotta Go, another good bluesy number. And then you got Neon Nights, no, not relating to Neon Nights from Black Sabbath, or Accept, is real catchy country pop, right? So really great album, a lot of good variety on it. You got a lot of good rockers, you got some bluesy stuff, and you got some pop, and you got some kind of country stuff. So it gives you a little bit of everything. And I think it's one of the best snapshots of what this band was really all about. So yeah, that's my number 2.
Yeah, well, so it's number 1 time, isn't it? Yeah. Well, my number 1 is Back Up Against the Wall. First record with Ronnie Hammond. There we go. Not sure they get away with that cover these days.
No. It's not at all.
No. Starts off really nicely with Wrong. Hey, a song with a harmonica solo, and you just cannot go wrong with that. The title track absolutely boogers, as if it's Skinner Day. Yay. Very, very, very good. It's also kind of reminded me like as if Jim Croce was fronting a rock band, an actual big kind of band, and I like him, so that's good. Make Believe is again a bit eagerly, and you were talking previously about songs that could have been a hit single, and I just can't believe that wasn't. Cold Turkey, Seagarish, It Must Be Love, because that kind of set, you think, this is going right down the Freebird route. They're gonna have to finish this off with a 20-minute guitar solo, and then they don't.
No, they never do, right? They could have. They just choose not to.
Yeah. That Restraint is good. There's Redneck, the anti-racist song. That's I very much like that. And I would suggest that this is like their most southern record. Certainly in the top 2 most southerny kind of records, and I really like it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Those first 2 are definitely a little bit different, I think, for them. And and you're probably right. Most indicative of that really early southern rock scene, I guess. And then they found their footing, and they kind of moved in a little bit different directions. But yeah, good stuff. All right, my number 1 may be a little obvious, but it's the one I like the best. And it's also happens to be their biggest seller. Champagne Jam from 1978. It's a fun album. This is one of those. All right, it's summertime, out by the pool. I got the grill spatula going, sipping a beer, people out having a good time. You put on Champagne Jam. I mean, it's got, kicks off with Large Time, which is probably arguably their most Lynyrd Skynyrd type of tune. Just such good riffs, just gritty, nasty song. The guitars are just amazing. I'm Not Gonna Let It Bother Me Tonight and Imaginary Lover are great singles. They're both really good. Again, is it Southern rock? Probably not, but it's good. It's really good. I love the upbeat and catchy hard rock and title track. Champagne Jam is so good. The Battle, Louis Malone is all Southern rock right there. Eveline, it's got this haunting quality to it. It's a great pop song. It's got some really good guitar solos thrown in there as well. And then The Great Escape is a good melodic hard rock song. I don't know. I love this album. I love the cover. It's just a fun album. Is it as indicative of the whole catalog? Maybe not, but I still dig it quite a bit. So that's my number 1. You know what's really cool here? We didn't pick almost any, we picked
I know.
completely different stuff.
Yeah.
And that was my hope, because now everybody has a good cross section of a good chunk of the catalog without us kind of overlapping everything. So as far as the honorable mentions, what got a couple others you want to just kind of mention as things to look out for folks?
Yeah, I'm not normally a fan of covers album. I think their last actual album was a covers album, with all due respect, and it's just a nice record. You know, a nice record. You can put it on. Think I'm having a good time with this record. It's really, really well played. And bizarrely enough, they cover Steely Dan, and the track's gone right out of my mind. And just for like that one occasion, they don't actually sound like Steely Dan when they're doing the Steely Dan song, which is decidedly.
Could anybody sound like Steely Dan?
Well, this is true, but you know, it is Ronnie Hammond's final appearance, and it's just a pleasant, very pleasant. I know that's Dominic with some faint praise, isn't it? It's a really pleasant album. You know, when you were saying that you couldn't know how to say Quinella. Well, I'm not sure. Eufaula? Eufaula?
Eufaula, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one from 1999. Nice Rodney Mills production. Yeah, it's a good record. I would stand by that record. It's late period, but yeah, a good one. Yeah, because I think we discussed previously off air. I definitely remember saying I don't think this band has any classic albums. I think that was me, wasn't it? I definitely said that. But they're all good. You know, I'm going to stand by that. I don't think there's an actual classic within their catalogue, but they're all minimal solid.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. So I think what we're getting at here, because I kind of, for me, I think, I don't know, my top three I like a lot. Like Red Tape, Rock and Roll Alternative, and Champagne Jam, to me, are as close to classic as this, for me anyway, as close to classic as they're going to get. However, is there a pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd in this catalog? I don't think so. Is there a Special Forces in this catalog? I don't think so. Is there a Flirting with Disaster in this catalog? I don't quite think so. But there's some damn strong records here, right? And I think, you know, it's almost like if you take some of the best of a couple of these albums we talked about and put them together, you have that drop dead classic, right?
Yeah.
So, and for folks watching, I don't want you to be under the misconception that we are slighting this catalog at all, because we're not. I think we both are real big fans of this band. I certainly am. But there might not, you know, maybe this, but it might be as close to a drop dead classic as they have. But again, this is not like a scorching Southern rock album, right? Like, I don't know. It's an interesting band to talk about because of all the things that we've just recently mentioned. It's like there is no, you know, top 200 rock albums all time album in this catalog, right?
Correct.
That may be the best way to put this. Whereas if we were, you know, some of these other Southern rock bands we've talked about, you might have one or two of their albums appearing on those Rolling Stones top 500 list of all time type of thing, right? But but still a really, really, really good band that I think is worth investigating if you're watching and you haven't already. So I will say this is one of my honorable mentions too. This is one of their latter period ones. This is from 1999. This, and again, it falls victim to the a little bit too long fate, because there's 11 tracks on here. It's a pretty long album. Half of it's really, really good. The other half is kind of like, okay, kind of by the numbers, you know, soft rock, whatever, but still showed they had a lot left in the tank. I will say this one is also pretty good. Truth in a Structured Form. And again, you know, when you have that Les Paul on the front, usually means there's some, you know, rocking stuff on here, and this actually does a little bit. And then I talked about the live album before. I do want to throw out this other live album. This is taped in at the Savoy in New York City in 1981, which is pretty cool. So, live, they were a really good live band. This had, a lot of their hits. It's got Champagne Jam, I'm Not Gonna Let It Bother Me Tonight, Homesick, Alien, Large Time, Spooky, Higher, Imaginary Lover, So Into You, and Long Tall Sally, which is kind of a strange inclusion. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I mean, these are also in my, these two were in my honorable mentions as well, because I do like the first two albums quite a bit. I think I like some of the other ones a little bit better, but yeah. And if you can still get them, folks, the BGO, reissues, remasters are the way to go. I mean, I have, pretty much all of them on these, for the most part. So way to go. Get two for the price of one. Sound great, cool booklets. What's not to like if you're like a collector, right, of stuff? So there you have it, everybody. So just in case you want more Southern rock, so Simon and I will be back hopefully in a couple weeks to do this very same thing, our top 5 favorites for the Charlie Daniels Band and the Marshall Tucker Band. So that's coming up in a few weeks, so stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, Simon will be back next week before he goes on holiday. Right? Friday, yeah. Friday. You'll be back twice, actually. So all right, so I was thinking about next week's too. So we will be back Friday, same time, same bat channel, to do a similar type of thing with UK. All right, Simon, help me out here. How is the best way to describe 10?
They are a melodic rock act. Very often you see the word Whitesnake attached to them, and I don't get that.
No, I don't.
No. In any way, shape, or form. But they're quite a commercial sounding band for a band that have had precisely no hits.
Yeah. They are a melodic rock band. So think melodic rock, like big choruses in mid 80s type of thing, but with tons of really cool prog rock keyboards. That's the way I always describe them. I don't know if that's like authentic or anything like that. So we're going to be doing ranking our top 5 and some honorable mentions for them, because they also have a pretty big catalog on Friday. And then we're going to get back together with Stephen Reed to rank the catalog of Eden's Curse. So that's coming up next week.
We are indeed.
Yes. So that's coming up.
Are you joining in with that?
I think so. I hope so, because that's not a big catalog, and I'm familiar with a couple of them. I'm going to go and listen to the rest of them, and so so I think I'm going to join in that. So I can't let you guys have all the fun. I mean, I could leave it up to you guys, and it's as entertaining as hell. But I figure let me interject a little bit, and I'll add to the fun. So.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned for that. So Simon, Stephen, and I next Wednesday, Eden's Curse. Simon and I back again on Friday for 10, and then in a couple weeks, Simon and I back again for the Charlie Daniels Band and the Marshall Tucker Band. And while you're at it, through all this, visit us on the web at www.seeitranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Stay tuned tomorrow. We've got the Monsters Den. We've got special guest Chris Allo's on vacation. So from Comic Book Geezers comes over Kirk Manning. He's going to join me and fill in for Chris tomorrow to do a show, just kind of what all the horror movies we've been watching lately. So that's coming up today. We've got some new album reviews on the channel Friday morning at the Funhouse with Martin Popoff. And then Sunday, we've got the second episode of Album Homework Assignment. We've got myself going against Martin Popoff with Jamie Laszlo moderating, so tune in for that. And then, of course, the week starts all over again with the Hudson Valley Squares on Monday. So thanks for watching, everybody. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click on that notification bell if you want to make a channel donation. The link to the Ko-Fi page is below, as well as the link to our merch page where you can get all sorts of See It Tranquility stuff, and the link to seeitranquility.org, the webzine that Simon and I have been writing on for 20 years this year. Well, Simon hasn't been around quite that long, but he's been around half that long at least. So there you have it, everybody. Thanks for watching. For Simon Bray, I am Pete Pardo. See you all real soon. Take care.